Welcome to the All Access Podcast from the experts at Tevis. Each episode, we'll talk about technology topics, trends, or solutions that manufacturers need to know in today's rapidly evolving times. Sit back, enjoy the discussion, and let us know what you think.
Hello, my manufacturing friends. Welcome again to the All Access Podcast. I am your host, Michael Thiessen, and I'm excited to bring you this particular episode of the All Access Podcast. As you know, we're always trying to bring you useful information that you can use on your daily basis. And we all know that the industry changes pretty much, I would almost say hourly, on what's going on in the industry world, especially in the industry of manufacturing. I mean, manufacturing, we've got so many different nuances that tooling can change, CAD/CAM systems and software products develop on a daily basis, new functionalities. Machines come up with new technology, new functionality. So therefore, your manufacturing changes on a daily basis. So how do you keep up on all of these changes that are coming up and that are happening right now so that you are on the leading edge? Of course, we talk to individuals that have the answers. You may have listened to the previous podcast, some of the episodes ago with Christina Fugas from the Mold Making Technology magazine. And we were looking specifically at the mold making industry. But you know what? Manufacturing goes so much further than just mold making. So we started thinking about, okay, what about all the other industries? Who can we talk to that has the answers and goes to different industries, that goes across the world or around the world almost, and goes into job shops and contract shops and looks at the machining equipment and kind of gets their finger on the pulse of what's going on. And all machining processes, including the composite machining, die mold, aerospace, medical, automotive, you name it. Things change on a daily basis. So we wanted to talk to an individual that has all the answers. So we started thinking about, let's look at Modern Machine Shop. You probably have the magazine probably laying right now on your table, or maybe you're looking at the digital environment. So we reached out to Modern Machine Shop, and we got Brent Donaldson, who is the editor-in-chief for the Modern Machine Shop brand. He goes into all of these different environments, these different industries, and he sees firsthand of what's going on out there. Now, Brent, he has been 20 years in journalism. He has been over 6 years now at Modern Machine Shop. He also hosts a competitor podcast to the All Access Podcast with Made in the USA. And I'm really excited to have Brent welcome to the All Access Podcast.
Thank you so much. And you know, I would not consider Made in the USA to be a competitor. We're friends on the same playground.
Well, both of us are trying to help out the industry with technology, with useful information, because I think both of us realize that our listeners on your podcast as well as on ours, they're stuck in their four walls. And all what they're seeing is their daily production that they need to achieve. And we're trying to give them a little bit more of what's out there so that they can improve their business.
That's exactly right. That really is the way that people in the job shop world advance their own capabilities, right? Most of the shops that I think we're going to be talking about today are small and mid-sized job shops, and they can't afford a team of engineers to innovate new processes. So how do we innovate? How do we advance? How do we work toward increased production? We talk to each other, and we do things. We visit conferences and trade shows, and So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Now, you guys visit different companies as well in order to get firsthand look at what this new technology is like. Am I correct in that?
Yes, yes. So Modern Machine Shop has been around since 1928. I would consider us to be the leading publication and media brand in North America devoted to CNC machining. We were founded by Don Gardner in 28. We've got third and fourth and fifth generation family employees working with us today. And yes, we do. We travel the world. We explore the ways that job shops and contract shops and captive operations use machining equipment and the processes and strategies that they develop to become more effective and more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've been now at Tebis for the past 20 years, and obviously previously I was very heavily involved in machining and all of this. And the machining industry, the CNC equipment and the entire industry has changed dramatically over the last, I'm going to say, 10, 15, 20 years.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that you could categorize this as a state of flux, right? There are several very positive developments converging at once, and because of that creates some challenges. We've got, we could even recently point to the $52 billion federal investment to boost competitiveness with China in the production of semiconductors, and I do believe that's going to have a cascading effect on suppliers that will affect our world. We've got, like you mentioned up top, integrated machining technologies that increase production and the ability to machine lights out, and that's becoming more accessible to smaller job shops. My guess is it's probably not a coincidence that this is taking place at a time when there is growing and almost blanket recognition that increased production is the only way that the United States can compete with lower cost countries. And I think that's being recognized by both the machine tool industry at large and, the American public.
Yeah. I mean, we have been covering for multiple episodes now on some of the hardships and the problems that we're running into in our industry. And I think some of the issues that we're running into is captured by the labor shortage or the skilled labor shortage. Is that the same thing what you're seeing when you're going across the world or the country, that it's not just a U.S. problem, but it's a world problem that we're running into and trying to find these skilled machinists or individuals that are out there?
That is absolutely a global problem. Back in November, I visited Jimtoff, the Japanese machining trade show, and the companies and people that I spoke to there are, Japan-based machine tool builders are and their suppliers are experiencing the same issues that we are. In the United States, I think we've got a different set of issues that are feeding that problem. I think a big one is our education system. Frankly, if we don't get a handle on post-secondary education and focusing on education for the trades, I think we're in big trouble. So right now, companies, OEMs, shops are being forced to deal with that on a piecemeal basis, and some of them are succeeding and have excellent apprenticeship programs, but yes, that is an issue not just for us. That is an issue around the world.
Yeah, you touched on a very, very important point. And I was just at a conference this last week looking at aerospace, at the aerospace culture at the AIAM conference, or the Aero Summit. And also there, I had multiple conversations about this issue, the labor market. And same thing what you brought up, our education system with the high schools. Many years ago, back in the, I would say, 90s, that we dropped shop classes and all that kind of stuff, that we spend more effort on other areas than the hands-on, kind of gave us now I'm going to say a little bit of a deficit on young kids wanting to work with their hands or having the ability to learn about what it means to manufacture something. And I think it's hurting us right now in the machining industry as a whole, or even I would say in the manufacturing industry as a whole.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of people who listen to your podcast and read Modern Machine Shop are aware of this issue. This is taking place at a time when student debt is an enormous problem in this country. So if there's any silver lining to the student debt issue, is that it's shining a light on the trades a little bit. I have a son in college, goes to Ohio State, and it is much more expensive than it used to be, even for state schools. So we're based in Cincinnati, Ohio. We've got an excellent technical college here. So yes, we've got converging social and cultural issues that are shining a light on this topic.
How do you see companies, manufacturers, job shop places, how are they dealing with it right now? What can they do, or what are they doing right now to attract young folks to come work with them or work for them?
Well, shops and OEMs are largely using the same strategies. They're building partnerships with these technical colleges. That is the key that I'm seeing. There are some excellent programs like Cardinal Manufacturing, which exists out of a high school in Wisconsin. And the gentleman that put that program together, he's been doing it for a long time. He has integrated metalworking and machining classes into the high school program and even the middle school program there. And by the time you're a senior, you have the capability to work at their actual manufacturing facility on campus. And they are a real shop. They have real customers, and they make a salary. And that program is being emulated across the country at places like Eagle Manufacturing in Indiana. There are several that have visited Cardinal Manufacturing and have kind of taken that model and run with it. The issue is that this sort of approach to teaching manufacturing skills and machining skills to high school students, they're not connected, right? So there is no national system to connect these programs, and companies have to either learn about them on their own through things like your podcast and Modern Machine Shop, and try and partner with them that way, and hire these kids out of high school. So the awareness needs to be boosted, and ideally, these will be connected in an official way through our education system. And the fact that our Department of Education doesn't recognize that they have a home run just waiting to happen by doing things like bringing back, I think shop class is probably a little bit of an outdated term, but bringing those kind of experiences back to the high school and middle school level is a big mistake on their part.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of high schools over here in Michigan. Of course, that's where we are located, that have partnered up with machine manufacturers, with software manufacturers, and bringing them into the, so to speak, shop class, and actually teaching CNC machining already in high school. I applaud those high schools that are actually doing this, because they're actually doing a great service, not just to the country, but also to the manufacturing industry, because as we're trying to get more of the manufacturing back from China and some of the other countries back into the U.S., because we need to produce something, and we need to have these individuals, because let's face it, the baby boomers and the people that are currently the experts are going to retire or are in the process of retiring, and they're taking usually their head with them.
Right. So you've got the convergence of that phenomenon, which is really just getting started, and I think we're going to really see that have a huge effect over the next 10 years. That is going to create a void in our industry, and we have got to figure out a way to fill that void. And things like what you're mentioning with high schools, what we're talking about with Cardinal, those are excellent solutions. I would love to see something a little bit more strategic, top down. In the absence of that, I think we're going to have to rely on the growth of these high school systems, and really the recognition that the manufacturing industry, machine shops, those are high tech fields, and we've got this lingering, stubborn stereotype about manufacturing in this country, and it doesn't seem to go away. But once you get these kids into a machining environment, they get to see this is high tech stuff, and you get to operate with very expensive, very high tech equipment, robots, automated solutions. It's so somehow we're trying to bridge the gap with understanding of what we're really talking about here.
And I think it needs to even start a little bit further. It needs to start in your own home too, where you need to have your kids, your young girl, your young boy, let them manufacture something, let them do something. I mean, I remember having these metal sets at home where you screwed items together and did a lot of those things with hands-on. And there's something to be said about understanding what it means when you've built something and the pride that you've had when you build something. When I was, before being at Tebis, I was manufacturing stuff, and I knew exactly when that car rolled out later on that I've built the floor plan for this vehicle. There's a pride to this. And kids don't see that same pride anymore because they're more involved in the computers and their datas than what they're doing. So I think it should start very early already, and you've already mentioned this. But there's one word that you've mentioned now multiple times. I need to touch on that. You've mentioned automate and automation of everything. Do you see that with the experienced workers that are now exiting the manufacturing world, that something has to be done there? And one of the items is that we need to automate in order to fill that void somehow.
Sure. Well, automation has to do several jobs at once, and especially for, I think, the audience that we're talking about, these smaller, medium-sized job shops, which really compose the vast majority of production in this country. We've got to meet the exit of the baby boomer generation, and we've got to inspire grade school and high school kids to get into this field. And so you take that, and you take the fact that automation is really the only way that we can compete with lower cost countries. I think we all know what happened in this country, and starting in the 80s and especially in the late 90s and 2000s with a lot of the production leaving the United States for lower cost countries. Automation is the only way to bridge that gap. Increased production is the only way to bridge that gap. So, yeah.
Now, automation is a big word. Let's break that down, because obviously when companies think of, oh, I need to automate, all what they're thinking about is, oh, I need to get a robot. And therefore, there I'm going with automation. But automation, I think, goes so much further than just getting a robot.
Sure. So I think there are sort of two main camps when it comes to automation solution. I recently had a chance to sit down and talk to Dr. Masahiko Mori, DMG Mori's president, and he is really pushing that company toward integrated automation solutions, packing as many automation technologies into multitasking machines, turn mills as possible, right? And not relying on piecemeal automation solutions with cobots for machine tending, pallet changers, adding those one at a time. He wants to integrate everything at once. That might not be practical or affordable for a lot of shops. So they do need to rely on that piecemeal automation, adding one capability at a time. And learning how to do that, learning even how to convince maybe your boss to invest in that is a culture change. And I think that's where we are right now.
Yeah. And if I can push that a little bit further, even with this entire automation concept, you can automate utilizing a robot. No, absolutely. You can have a robot connected to a CNC machine that feeds the part into it. But I think what I'm pushing even further is we need to automate the processes that we're dealing with. So processes that these experienced workers that are exiting, they have a huge amount of wealth of knowledge that they take with them. So we need to capture that wealth of knowledge in tables, in processes, in templates, machining templates, any of those things, and capture all of that technology and embed that in it for the future generations, because they're no longer going to be available to us, and ask questions of what's the feed rate for this particular machine or this particular material, or how do I deal with this material, and so forth. So automation goes much, much further than, I think, just getting a robot and putting it on the machine. Sure, you're gaining advantages from that, but all these processes need to be stored.
Right. So I think about that in terms of end-to-end process control, and now we're really getting into data-driven manufacturing using connected shop floor devices, including machine tools, in-machine probing, nearline inspection equipment, CMMs. I mean, all of these, even if you're using legacy equipment, it is still possible to connect all of these shop floor tools. The challenge comes with learning to interrogate that data and find and eliminate your production pain points. One company that is really great at this is Renishaw. Renishaw has kind of nailed this end-to-end process control for the production of their own product portfolio. I had a chance to visit their production facilities in the UK. And it's very impressive. They've got nearline inspection equipments. They've got one equator gauging system that is set up near several machine tools, and they automate the inspection of. They use this system of master parts and measure it against the production part, and it's very impressive. But ultimately, the only difference between what a company like that can do and the capabilities of what a small job shop can do is really their ability Renishaw's ability to have a team of engineers that is constantly innovating in this area. And like we've already talked about, shops typically can't do that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But we are, I mean, no doubt there, we are a data-driven manufacturing system. I mean, this is the buzzword, at least, that we live on data. And having companies like Renshaw, and we collaborate very closely with them together in many of our companies, it's really the data that speaks for itself, or utilizing MES solutions to kind of find out, okay, how's my scheduling going? How's my planning going? Am I on track to deliver the parts and the goods on time? And what if my machine goes down? What can I do in order to still deliver on time? Because you're always measured by the last delivery date and the last quality of part that you've delivered to your suppliers or to your OEMs. And this data-driven knowledge and capturing all this data is, I think, now more important than ever before.
Yes, I feel like we're finally past, you probably, you have the experience to recall back even 15, maybe even 20 years ago, when some of the robotic automation solutions began to really enter the market. There was a culture shock, a fear among shop workers that they were going to be replaced. And I hope that it's become clear that automation doesn't replace jobs. It changes the nature of the work. And I think that there is a general recognition that that is the case. The ability to, the same could be said for connecting machine tools to machine monitoring equipment. Right? So take machine metrics, for example. They have spoken about that same culture shock when they started to work with customers and machine tool operators being afraid of having their work monitored all day, the machines that they're responsible for running monitored all day. You can see the downtime. It's scary at first. I've been to many shops where they have monitor screens placed throughout the shop floor, and you can see exactly the production for each machine tool. And at first, that might be a little scary, but the real consequence is it creates a culture of really winning on the shop floor. You want to be the operator who has uh, is achieving the highest production, is running his or her machines continuously, and you can do that with machine monitoring. And so I think that is part of the culture change that we're talking
Right.
about.
And it's a race every single day that we need to outperform what we did the day before. And it's standard practice, because if we don't do this, outside sources or outside countries that can potentially put 3-4 individuals onto a part where we can only afford to put one person on it, of course they have the advantage. So we need to really be on that race. So what are some of the other trends that you're seeing? We already touched on automating and the robotic side on it. What are some of the other trends that you're seeing in the machining industry or the manufacturing industry as a whole that is really catching steam?
So many of them do revolve around automation. One of the biggest trends that for anyone who visits a trade show, we've got IMTS coming up next year. You probably notice that robotic and systems integration is a huge topic right now. There are lots of companies that are offering smaller shops ways to integrate automation solutions, but purely outside of automation, I think we've got a focus on the trades that is happening. It's sort of a zeitgeist that is finally happening in the media. Certainly, we're focused on it here at Modern Machine Shop. We've got more of a focus on business strategies for job shops. This phenomenon of the baby boom generation exiting is creating new opportunities and challenges for upcoming generations, for millennials, for Gen Z. On that front, we've got AI and low and no code programming that is going to be huge in this country. And I do believe that general recognition by the American public that we need made in the USA supply chains, right? I think before COVID, I would doubt that most people really could define what a supply chain is until they went to their store and saw items that were missing that used to be easily accessible. The need to keep supply chains tight and short, I think that is a huge recognition right now. So we've got a lot of converging trends that are kind of all pointing in the same direction, that we need manufacturing. Manufacturing is vital to the health of this country, to our economy, and we really need to align on that and create. And we talk about end-to-end process control. We need end-to-end process control for manufacturing education in this country, and a way to fill the void that's coming toward us.
So we got IMTS coming up next year. Always during the IMTS, there's always a plethora of new machine technology and machine capabilities. I think one of the machine trends that I'm seeing quite a bit out there in the machining world is the utilization of mill turn equipment with either multiple turrets or multiple capabilities. And I see more and more of these machines kind of creep up into the mold environment in other industries as well. Do you see the same kind of stuff happening there as well on your side?
Yeah, absolutely. So sort of in the same vein, I'm seeing a recognition that Swiss type can do more than what it's classically been used for. Multitasking machines, we were talking about Dr. Mori. Yes, I see that as a trend, a recognition that you need these capabilities to avoid multiple setups, to save production time. Absolutely. We've got Swiss types being used not just to produce screws and fasteners, but all kinds of parts for medical and yes, multi-turret multi-capability, multi-axis machines are vital to that.
I mean, they're not easy to program, that's for sure, because you're dealing with so many different axes and so many different capabilities of what these machines can do. But I think there is definitely a fit for those types of machines in today's industry. Let me ask you about additive. Do you see more and more additive? I mean, I remember the first Rapid show that I went to where the additive machines came out. I mean, they looked rather primitive at the time, and nobody really took them serious back then. But I think they're becoming more and more popular.
So with additive, I'm kind of seeing two trends right now. Additive manufacturing of polymers is fairly common on job shop floors for the use of creating jigs and fixtures, tooling. The other side of it is production parts. I am not really seeing metal 3D printing replacing traditional CNC manufacturing at this point. There is a day that may come. What is happening, however, my colleague Pete Zielinski recently wrote a column about a hybrid machine that is producing mold cores and cavities, and the ability to 3D print that, CNC it right in the same machine. Hybrid manufacturing, the use of machines that incorporate metal 3D printing and machining in the same unit. I have not seen that take off in the way that might have been imagined. However, I think that those technologies are going to play a bigger role. But I'm not seeing a one-to-one replacement of additive for CNC.
Right. Now, the majority of our conversation so far has been really focusing on automation. Now, there is a conference coming up, the Automated Shop Conference. I think you're somewhat involved in that as well. So tell me a little bit about this particular conference.
Yes. So the Automated Shop Conference, TASC, TASC, is a 2-day conference taking place on October 10th and 11th in Novi, Michigan. And this is a conference really laser focused on a lot of the topics we've been talking about. Automation solutions for small and mid-sized job shops. So TASC is not a trade show. It's a technical conference featuring technical presentations from some of the country's leading experts on shop automation. I talked earlier about Renishaw and their end-to-end process control capabilities to achieve lights out machining. The difference, again, between what they're doing and what a small and medium-sized job shop is not the technology, right? The technology is available to anyone who is willing to invest in it. So TASC will feature presentations on really scores of topics that are meant to allow job shops to attain lights out machining. And we're going to be talking about low-cost machine tending systems for small job shops, the advantages of multi-part setups versus single-part flow, how to calculate a robot's ROI, how to partner with technical colleges to secure automation talent, and even topics like shop culture and preparing your team for automation. So yes, again, the event is called TASC, the Automated Shop Conference. It's October 10th and 11th in Novi. There's also optional tours available, including a tour of Fanuc's nearby production facility, which is amazing. We've got parties and networking events. So I really encourage your audience to check out TASC event. That's TASC event.com, and check it out and register.
And they can find all of this information also, I think, on the Modern Machine Shop MMS online area about TASC or what is there. And I would probably recommend any of the job shops that are in the area or even in Ohio and the surrounding areas of Michigan to take a look at that conference, because it could definitely change and influence the way how you're automating currently, or what goes into your thoughts of how to automate.
Absolutely. I think this is the only technical conference that I know of that is specifically geared toward those small and mid-sized job shops. And this is such a huge topic. And again, I keep coming back to the fact that these shops cannot afford to hire a team of engineers to innovate automation solutions. So this is the way that we do it. We talk to experts, we talk to each other, and that is what Task is going to be all about.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you about Modern Machine Shop. Who should read Modern Machine Shop, and what is in it for some of the listeners that maybe have not come across the Modern Machine Shop magazine, which I highly doubt, because if you're a manufacturer today, you probably have this magazine sitting on your table. I've got mine sitting right beside me. What would you say to these people that have not yet seen it?
Well, you're missing out. Modern Machine Shop has really been the leading publication in this country devoted to CNC machining. CNC has been the focus for the last few decades, but we've been around since 1928. We were founded by Don Gardner. The company today still has third and fourth and fifth generation family employees working here. But yeah, today we are really focused on CNC machining technology, how it's advancing, how it's succeeding. And like you mentioned up top, we do that by traveling the country, but also traveling the world, exploring the ways that job shops, contract shops, captive operations use machining equipment, the processes and strategies that they develop to become more effective and more efficient. So we've got the print and the digital versions of the magazine. We also have the Made in the USA podcast. We've got popular shop tour video series on YouTube, a number of ways to check us out in whatever way you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend all the listeners check out this magazine digitally on mmsonline.com. Take a look at it and see what they have on there, and the amount of information that is on that particular webpage with reading material, videos. I mean, if you're not a reader, there's tons of videos on there as well that you can look at. I would definitely highly recommend that. Obviously, we talked about some of the pitfalls that are coming in manufacturing in terms of the labor shortage. What are some of the other pitfalls that you see that are coming up, or that maybe manufacturers have not yet realized? What are some of the difficulties?
Well, right now for shops looking to invest in capital equipment, we're in a challenging time. Interest rates are high, and that is causing a lot of shops to hang on to their existing equipment. The good news on that front is, when we're talking about connecting machines on the shop floor connectivity and data, it is still very possible to connect that sort of legacy equipment on your shop floor. So we've got a technology issue. We've got the employment issue. The sort of existential threat is really more geared toward the latter discussion. We have to change this stereotype about manufacturing and about what a machine shop looks like. We've got a younger generation that is growing up with connected devices in their hands, and that is going to translate one-to-one with your experience on a shop floor now and especially in the future.
It's no longer dark and grungy and oily. I can tell you that, because some of the machine shops that I've walked into are high tech.
They're bright, they're open, they're high tech. You're in a field where you're not sitting behind a computer screen all day. You are making things. You are really the backbone of manufacturing in this country if you work for a small or medium-sized job shop. So we, changing our perception in this country, I would say is the biggest pitfall that we're facing right now.
Yeah. I have a son that works for one of the OEMs, and he's directly involved in the supply chain and making sure that everything gets to the plants on time. Do you still see supply chains on the job shop level is still an issue potentially? I know at one time it was steel was hard to get, then resins were hard to get, and all that kind of stuff. Do you see, has that improved a little bit for some of the job shops and the manufacturing shops out there?
I think absolutely. So with that sort of recognition, and I really do think that COVID had a lot to do with this, but you have a lot of shops that are recognizing that their own supply chain needs to be tighter, closer. I've visited facilities that the leaders of these shops are making concerted efforts to reach out locally and keep their supply chains as tight and close as possible. So I think there's a recognition of this both from the OEM level and from the shops themselves. When there is a global pandemic and those supply chains that rely on shipments from overseas break down, what are you going to do? So I think that is finally being recognized and is making an impact on production in this country.
I'm glad we're trying to change the way how we're manufacturing and the way how we're doing things here in the U.S. I'm really glad. Before we wrap up, I need to ask this question, and please forgive me for asking this question, because every individual that comes on this particular podcast, of course, I read their bio and see what they've done, and kind of seeing what's interesting. And when I read your bio, Brent, there was one item that really stood out, and it was the fun fact. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, fun fact, yes. Yeah. On my bio, I do have a fun fact.
Brent was the last journalist ever to interview Evel Knievel. So tell me about this. Right. I'm curious.
That's right. So in a former life, I worked for a magazine that was producing sort of a retrospective on some prominent events that happened in the city of Cincinnati over the past 40 years. And one of them was Evel Knievel jumping 14 buses at Kings Island. And we wanted to commemorate that amazing event. And so I was tasked with finding Evel Knievel. This was back, I want to say 2008. I was tasked with finding him and trying to talk to him about his experience jumping 14 buses at Kings Island. And I will tell you that tracking down and getting Evel Knievel on the phone was probably the most difficult journalistic assignment I've ever had in my life. It took me several weeks of finding leads. One person led to another. I tried to contact his son. I finally eventually did reach Evel Knievel's son. I think his name is Robbie. And he was finally able, after a few weeks, to put me in touch with his dad. And so when I reached Evel Knievel, I think I caught him on a bad day. He was really really grumpy. I think he was dealing with some health issues at the time, and that will play out in the way the story ends. But once I started talking about his jump at Kings Island, his entire attitude changed. He really lit up and just had great stories about his experience while in Cincinnati playing golf with some of the Cincinnati Reds, Big Red Machine. I think Bob Hope was there. The jump itself, he loved to brag that that those jumps were not done with lightweight motorcycles of today. They were done with Harleys, the heaviest motorcycles you can buy. So it was a fantastic experience. I relished that experience. And then shortly after the article was published, maybe like a week after, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
So
it definitely is a fun fact, and it's something that I think you should be incredibly proud of, because it's not every single day that you get to interview a celebrity like he was, and the accomplishments that he had.
Yes, it was a big enough of a deal that I put it on my bio.
Absolutely, I think it's great, and I'm thankful that I was able to ask you about this. But just to wrap this up, any advice for our job shops moving forward as we're heading towards the end of this podcast here? Any advice?
Yes, come to task. Come to the Automated Shop Conference in Novi, Michigan on October 10th and 11th. I think your audience will learn a lot no matter where they are in their automation journey. If you're just beginning, if you're pretty far down the path, you will learn something at Task. And you've got the Task website where you can register. Again, that's taskevent.com. I highly recommend anyone listening to this to come check out Task and say hi.
Brent, thank you for being on this podcast. You definitely brought a ton of information to our listeners, and I'm glad that you joined us for this episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I really appreciate it. Had a good time.
Awesome. Well, to all of you out there that have listened to this episode, you probably are walking away and saying, you know what, I definitely need to go to this Task conference. And I would applaud you if you do, because automating in today's manufacturing world is an absolute must. If that's in your processes, in the way how you operate, if that's on your machines, if that's on everything that you do, you definitely need to automate, because we as American manufacturers, we need to keep that manufacturing over here in the US. And that's one of the ways how we can deal with it and how we can beat the manufacturing race. So definitely look up Task, TASC, and go to the conference in Novi. And definitely check us out over here at Tebis. We're always happy if you look at how we can help you with the automation process and what you need to do with automating. And if you have any suggestions or ideas of what you're looking for in your daily life, send it to us at marketing@tebisusa.com so we can maybe put it on the podcast schedule and get this information to you. So with that said, I wish you all a wonderful week in manufacturing. Look at your automation process. Look at what you can do in automating your company, and definitely reach out to people that do know, such as Brent or even us here at Tebis. So with that said, have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining us here at the All Access Podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining this episode of All Access. Please leave a comment or review with your feedback or what you'd like to hear in future episodes. To learn more about manufacturing technology solutions and Tebis's capabilities, visit our website at Tebis. That's TEBIS.com.